Hi, I'm Rob Ferguson. I'm the percussion designer and caption head of the Phantom Regiment Drum Bugle Corps. And we're here at our move-in site for the 2021 DCI Championships. And Zildjian came out today and was doing some filming. We had a rehearsal day, we just got some rain. We were able to get a run-through in and get some filming for that run-through and be able to look at some cymbal stuff more specifically. And we just want to talk about some of the choices we make, why we use the sounds we use, and how that applies to what we do as well as marching band stuff. We run a wide array of Zildjian cymbals, and we've been really blessed to be able to explore that palette a lot. At the basic level, we run a number of things in terms of suspendeds, and then effect cymbals, and then very specialty resonant metals. In terms of our suspended palette, we start with the Constantinoples and the classical orchestrals. That's the majority of what we're using, especially in our woods this year. We also use some of the K series, the new K suites, the K clusters. The K darks, all of those have been something that kind of supplement in, get a little bit thinner cymbal in the course of that. So we run a variety of those. We also love the Crash of Doom as a really versatile cymbal in that world for us. And so we run a combination of those in sizes, mostly 18s and 20s. In the drum corps, with being as a lot of a horn line as we have in situations here, we run a lot of 20-inch cymbals that way, 19s and 20s. In terms of our next level support cymbal, there's two things we like to use. Number one is China support. The most used China we use is the A Ultra Hammered China. I think it's just one of the most versatile Chinas for what we do in our activity. So because we're rolling on them a lot, we're catching them, but we're hitting them with mallets a lot of times and not sticks. So something that has a little bit more sustain to it, and when we're playing it with suspended cymbals and crashes, it blends a little better and it's not so quick and trashy. So in the keyboards, we use a lot of those. In addition, we use some of the hybrid Chinas to add a little bit more hiss in some of those rolls. And then we go into our EFXs. It's something that I think is, if we have the opportunity to have multiple cymbals on the keyboard, it's something that's really important to us. So we use the K EFX, the 18K EFX, which we think is a great cymbal in combination to roll on specifically. And then a few years ago, Zildjian introduced the K Custom Dark Trash Crash, special dry, I gotta get all that right. And that I think is a game changer for us, because what it does is create another suspended quality that has a very hush. It makes an HA kind of sound. We use it a ton in the ballad. We use it a ton finishing light brass phrases where we want them to breathe, and then we go from there to the Constantinoples and the COSs, and suddenly there's a little bit more brightness, there's a little bit more hiss upstairs from the cymbals. So we have that darker, warmer sus, which is our EFXs, and then we have that more traditional full-body suspended cymbal, which is a combination of Constantinople and classical orchestral for us. And that's kind of our go-to start palette. Somewhat irrelevant of the show that we're using those as a kind of a standard. We also, from a crash, we're gonna, we hit a lot of cymbals in the impact points. We love the idea that, like on our marimbas, for example, we have the EFX, or the trash crash, we have the sus, and then we have a China. We can take those in combination. So if we have back-to-back crash and crash, we can go our trash crash and our sus, and then we can go our sus and our China and have ability to evolve in terms of brightness and punch. But we're not just hitting Chinas, we have length of the suspended. We're obviously cymbal nerds, right? We're cymbal nerds. But the thing about it is we have these opportunities to control color. And I think it's really easy to look at cymbals as a secondary thing. Like we play all the keyboard and then we hit the cymbal. We have such a huge cymbal contribution in any marching show, like super important. At the end of phrases, we're going to the cymbals, right? We have to think about how can we provide color there and not just not think about it. We do it in our battery. Like, do we want a shot? Do we want a ping shot? Do we want the full bass line? Do we want bass 5? We do the same thing in our cymbal choices, and how we combine that with concert bass drums, with gongs, with hand crashes. As you are able to look through the footage, our hand crash palette is pretty dark. And it's not something that I would do everywhere. We use a combination of the K Symphonics. That's a cymbal that Zildjian's had out for a while, and it was a game changer when I first heard those at PASIC years ago, and we started to use them with a different drum corps that I taught. And the ability to have more contact front sound. It has more of a ching to it, but still a ton of body, and a really nice volume capability without overplaying the cymbal, which is something we have to look at, especially with Phantom Regiment. And then the Constantinoples to go in there and kind of add that richness and the warmth. So for everything we're doing combinations. We're seldom ever going, everybody's playing on a 20-inch Constantinople. Everybody's playing on we're using hybrid solutions that way. So We're not stuck in one specific sound. And then we use a tremendous amount of resonant metal sounds, zill bells or splash cymbals. Everything that Zildjian has, we find a way to color, and the new blast bell is super awesome. And just ways where we can go in there and color the battery and not go back to the same sound. If we're going digga-digga-dun, digga-digga-dun, can we find digga-digga-dun, digga-digga-dun? Can we find a way to vary that? So there's always some kind of journey in the cymbal sound as well as there is in the battery orchestration, in the keyboard orchestration, in the horn line that way. So that for us is where we start. And that's the motivation behind it. And then everything else becomes, what does the show need? What does the phrase need? And we start picking and building from there to try to serve those things and still make it all fit on the keyboards. So we're really fortunate, again, to have those opportunities. And that's the beautiful part of Zildjian is if you're willing to get in there and start realizing everything you can do with it, there's just nothing you can't do. It's just a matter of imagination and becoming familiar with the product. So we've been really blessed to have that opportunity. And for me, for years and years and years, to just begin to fall in love with certain things and love certain sounds and have that, I know what that is. We know what a 6-inch Spock drum sounds like with a rim shot. We know what an 8-inch splash, a custom splash sounds like, and what a 10-inch custom splash something. You know what that is. You know that that's an Oriental China trash, or you know that's a custom China. You know those things, and you just build that vocabulary of sound the same way you do mallet choice, the same way you do, again, if you're using puffies on bass drums or hard mallets. We can explore it that way, and that for me as an arranger is just another opportunity for me to be able to customize and really craft each single piece of what we do. One of the things in our activity is we're so used to, whether it's drum corps, we have a ton of brass options. And these days, now we have soloists, or we have mic effects, or we have a piccolo trumpet, or we have all these other options, a flugelhorn. And we're constantly looking for a way we can create new colors, a new combination of colors. In marching band, we introduced the idea of woodwinds, and suddenly we have even more colors. And I think you listen to modern wind band literature, and there's constant color changes. And that's what makes it so magical. And in the front ensemble, I think specifically in the past 20 years, you've seen, thanks due to miking electronics, we are exploring and exploring and exploring. I think at times it's easy to forget that we can do the exact same thing in the cymbal, gong, crotale world. We have the opportunity to not just think, well, I need a suspended cymbal roll. And that's where it starts with me, is we need to go 3, 4, 1 to open up the phrase. How do we want to do it? Is it a dark moment? If it's a dark moment, we can pick a dark cymbal. If it's going to be the Phantom Regiment brass ensemble coming in at 3 Fs, then we go to a brighter cymbal to bring them in. And to know that we can make those choices. We can make those choices and think that way. The same way we don't think of our marimbas in one color. We think I have so many mallets back there that I can pull a mallet out and change the color of that instrument and the contribution of that instrument. And we write differently, right? We write differently for a hard mallet than we do a soft mallet. We write differently for a china being caught than we do a suspended cymbal being rolled. A mini china compared to a regular china, like the mini china going is hugely effective in a rim shot situation. We have 2 shots, chop to get it. Can we go low mini china, high mini china? And suddenly there's a journey to that. There's a color journey to that thing. And it's interesting. And for me, I'm not ever looking for the audience to oh, I'm dwelling on the cymbal sound. I don't want the audience to go, I'm dwelling on the mallet choices. But can we make that journey more interesting? And if we do, if we just sit and listen to that, is that interesting all by itself? And I think the first thing we can do is realize that there are so many colors out there within the suspended cymbal family, within the china family, within the splash cymbals, the EFX sounds. And I think what we can do is go, how can I begin to think that way first? And then I start to acquire those sounds and become familiar with how to write with them. But I think the first thing we have to do is go, there could be a mini china there, right? Just like we go, hey, there could be a rim shot there, or there could be a ping shot there. There could be a mini china, or that could be a splash, or that could be an 8-inch splash, it could be a 10-inch splash. And suddenly, it's super interesting. Like we don't just go, oh, cymbal, and we don't just go, oh, hand crash. We could use a pair of hand chinas. That changes the game completely. For us, we're actually using a pair of Zill bells together because it's a super cool sound. Not for everything, but for that moment, it's like, well, that's a sound that's unique, and that we can grab on and make that unique. And I think the other part of it, sometimes we go, for the audience, we want to keep it creative. For the player, we want to keep it creative. Like that player has the opportunity to know that there's craftsmanship behind each of the things that they do, that every single sound they play is important, because there's nothing generic. It's not a generic suspended cymbal sound. It's not a generic keyboard sound. That everything there is like everything else. Every mallet choice is important. Every cymbal choice is equally important to us. And I think that as soon as you start thinking, what is the sound I wish I could have there? There's an answer. And then you just got to get inside the Zildjian catalog, go online, push click, and start going, okay, I know what that cymbal is. And then you start to build those sounds together. Obviously, almost everybody in the activity and every arrangement, we need suspended cymbals to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 into the big hit, right? Or we need to go bang at the end of the phrase. Absolutely, and we do a lot of that. One of the things we do is we try to find places to create, for lack of a better term, breaths. And in our world, they could be electronic these days. We hit a button that goes, and we can create a breathy sample. Or for us, we can roll in a KEFX and it goes, right? And then if we want dooms or if we want chinas. So we run a lot of those other things in there that if we do it right and you're listening to the drum corps, you don't notice it. If we took it out, it would feel less interesting. So there are a lot of things that are in there. And just like the textural keyboard writing, just like electronics. And I think today we look at ambient samples a lot and ambient electronic effects. We have the opportunity for ambient cymbal effects that they're not just catch, bang, and that's super important. That stuff for us is very important. But we have to have those opportunities that we can do that. And I think for me, the cymbals that we often go to there, all of the EFX cymbals, the A custom EFX, I think is a wonderful, especially in a rack, a wonderful kind of midline, mid-phrase cymbal. Crash of Dooms, amazing, because they don't ever get bright. They can kind of go in there and just go hush in and out of a phrase and introduce the entrance of something without like sweeping into something. It's what I love about the Constantinoples, that they have one character when you just kind of live in the mezzo forte range, and then a different character when we push them into more of the forte fortissimo range. And we talk a lot about cymbals that go HA versus SH, shh. And so the player's thinking about, if they're living in that mezzo forte range, how can we get those cymbals to have that color? Part of it's the cymbal, and then part of it is how do we know where the cymbal starts to open up? And then we stay underneath that because it has a completely different quality. And I think as an arranger, that allows me to do some interesting phrasing things. And in younger ensembles, it allows me to give contribution to some of those younger players that are not just phrase endings, that allow them to be really musical and sometimes play a little bit less total keyboard to still contribute to the overall phrase without having to go, it has to be more notes, it has to be more notes, it has to be more notes. With any instrument, you have to understand that there's a color range. There's a total volume capability, and there's a tonal color that exists in each of those volumes. And one of the things that we think about is, what does this instrument sound like soft? What does this instrument sound like in the mid-range? What does it sound like very, very loud? And I think with most cymbals, especially the larger the cymbal gets, the wider range you have. On a 10-inch splash, it's a smaller range because it's a smaller instrument. On a 20-inch Constantinople, I can roll that soft, I can roll that faster, it gets brighter. I can control that. It's, again, I'm gonna always take it back like electronics. I can EQ that cymbal if I understand what I'm doing with my hands, if I understand what I'm doing with implements on that. People go, how do you know what to do? You just gotta listen. You gotta shut your eyes. I spend a lot of time with my eyes shut. And that's one of the jokes with the students here. Like, they know when when we're really starting to play well, I shut my eyes more. Because then we're not trying to correct rhythms. It's not that. It's like, let's really get the color right. Let's really get the balance right. One of the biggest mistakes that I think I hear get made, and we make all the time, is we just get too loud too quick. We push instruments with cymbals, get too loud. Shh. And we talk about not hissing cymbals a lot. But we need the volume. Let's have more people playing. In the moments, it's the same thing with gongs in that respect. We can hit that gong. If we hit the gong really hard, it kind of bites at us. If we want it to go, ooh, which is what we want, sometimes we have to have two of them. And then we do two people playing forte plus, and it opens up and it's like this big, nice explosion. If we have one guy just hit it really hard, it changes color. It's not just louder, it changes color. And very often that color is distorted that way. And it's the same thing with suspended cymbals. It's like when you look at our front ensemble, you go, that's a lot of cymbals, mostly so that we can roll them in as a cymbal ensemble, that we're never having to push one cymbal by itself far enough to support the regiment. That's not going to happen. So at times we're rolling on 7, 8, 9 suspendeds to get that lift. Or we're playing, but we're not trying to hit that cymbal super, super hard, because then it doesn't speak well. We're just using them in combination in those moments. And I think the best thing I can tell you is you have to sit and listen. And sometimes one of the best things to do is not even listen to your own group. I've spent a lot of time still today, and I did younger, like listen to groups, and I hear sound, and I would go find that person, go, what is that? What is that? And just kind of store them in your mental Rolodex of like, that sound, I heard that sound before. I heard that sound, what's that sound? And you just ask. I think that's a lot of times, just walk up to somebody, hey, what cymbal are you using? That's a super cool sound. Not because you saw the cymbal and liked the cymbal, because you heard the cymbal and wanted to copy the sound. And I think, for me, there's a lot of it's come from that. And very often it's me walking into the Zildjian booth on Basic and looking at the new stuff, and immediately like, I want to mount a stick, and I want to go, what can this thing do? What's everything this thing can do? And then we kind of put it in the head and go, is there a place for it? And sometimes there's not. And sometimes there's that sound that like you really dig, but it doesn't belong in this show. And that's totally cool. You hide it away, and then 2 years from now it comes up and you're like, I know what that sound is. And you go start to use those things, or you go, it takes multiple cymbals to do that. And I think the only way to get there, just like mallet choices, just like snare tuning, just like foaming bass drums, you have to get a sound in your head that you're after. It starts there. And then you slowly but surely figure out how to get that sound. It's not so much like, I'm going to use this mallet, I'm going to use this cymbal, I got to get this sound, and then how do we get to that sound? And again, that, for me as an arranger, that's one of the most interesting, like, go down the rabbit hole and spend hours like thinking about that thing. And it's just, I think it's super fascinating, because most percussionists, we love equipment, right? We love sounds, we love gear. And I think that's where the gearhead in all of us meets the artist in all of us, that we can like start to match up what we know is out there with what we're looking for. One of the best things that we can do as percussionists is we have the ability to use so many things. And cymbals are definitely one, but there's so many others. I mean, we use a bunch of brake drum colors. I spent some time over the summer just in a junkyard trying to find some really great sounds. We're actually using some steel plates, and that's a sound we wanted to create some punch. And again, I heard a friend of mine using this is where we steal, like we steal with our ears. I think it's cool. I heard a friend of mine using it, and I went, "What are you using?" And they're just pieces of steel plate from Lowe's. And we go, "What can we create? What mallet can we use? We're using a hammer on it, but we can expand our metal palettes that way." And a lot of what we use in our front ensemble are Zildjian things, like the Zilbels, the dry Zilbels that they had out a couple of years ago. I mean, all of those kind of combinations. But we also use a couple of different brake drums. We're using steel plates. Pipe, suspended steel pipe is such a great sound. Oh my God, you can use 50 different, what size pipe, what mallet, how do you hang it? You now have all these sounds that you can do very inexpensively. And again, I think that a lot of times people go, "Oh, I can't afford all that stuff." Well, can you collect over time? I think that's the thing. Like, and I start with, what is the most versatile sounds for me? If I'm working in a high school, in my high schools, some of the most versatile sounds for me to get used in the front ensemble, but in the wind ensemble, in the concert band, kind of across the ensemble, classical orchestrals. The classical orchestral suspended, I think, is unbelievably versatile. The ultra hammered china, like it's awesome on the drum set for pep band. It's great in marching band. It's great in indoor drum line. You've got those kind of colors. I think a 10-inch A custom splash is one of the greatest things on earth. I think it's the best single splash cymbal in our activity. It's great in the drum set. It's great in jazz band. It's great in all those situations. Right? You'll use it in indoor drum line. When it calls for a splash cymbal in concert band, it's going to work great for that. And what you do is collect those things. And for me, I work from the outside in. What's the most versatile things in my percussion ensemble, in my band program? So the budgets I do have, I can get the most of them. And then I'm going to work into those special effects, those things that I don't use as much. I'm going to work into like the EFX cymbals. But once I have them, the beautiful thing is if we play the instrument well and we take good care of them, they last forever. And me personally, I think they get even better with age. I think most of the Zildjian cymbals I have, as you play them more, they breathe more. And I think that's wonderful. So it's not like, well, we're going to have to do this, and this is a one-year thing. I mean, a lot of things we do in the marching activity are one-year things. Props, vinyl, all those things are one-year things. Those cymbal investments or those brake drum investments, you're going to use them over and over and over for years and years and years to come. And you're going to use them in concert band, you're going to use them in jazz band, you use them in pep band. And it's pep band in that your drum set player's like, man, it'd be really cool to use that EFX on this kit. Yeah. And then that student's learning about this other cymbal that they can go, oh, I didn't know that existed. You have it. You're exposing them to it too. But I think the budget thing is one of the things that people, they go, I don't know what to do. You collect and you prioritize. What's the sounds that you're most going to go to? I think your suspendeds is where I would say, go to great suspendeds first. In a band program, I wouldn't use all 20-inch suspendeds, maybe like we do. I would use an 18 and a 20 and a 16, which in that situation, it's versatility. Like I have those colors in the front ensemble, but then in wind ensemble, I have a range of things that I can choose from, that the band director can choose from. So I'm getting that versatility, and that's guiding some of my choices more than I would with Phantom Regiment, where this is an isolated situation. We're not trying to be overly versatile with our cymbal choices. We're very specific to the show. But in my high school bands, I'm always going, when I can get a budget to buy some Zildjian cymbals, what can I do to like make as many permanent investments to get used as much as possible as I can? And then 5 years from now, I've got a really wonderful selection. And that's when I can get into like, I really want that 8-inch splash. Then I'm adding that on because I've got great suspendeds and I've got great chinas. And those things are getting used all day long in the band room, which I think is great for us. It's great also because the band director sees that product getting used over and over and over, and we know it's versatile. So I think you have to just think from what is the thing I'm going to use the most, and then slowly work yourself down to specialty items. Thanks for joining us here. It's been awesome having Zildjian out here with us on finals week. Hope you enjoyed our 2021 production, Harmonic Journey. It's been a great summer for us, and we're already on to the 2022 production, and that means starting over, and that means new palettes and diving back into what sounds can we make. So you'll see some things come back again, all of our old favorites, and then we'll go back and go, what new can we create? What can we contribute in a new program? And we hope to see you again next year to talk about those things.
We'll be right back.